going to talk next about Microsoft and Xbox and its latest big event, which was called Inside Xbox. It is Microsoft's take on the Nintendo Direct. Now, typically, these have not been especially long or especially good. And I think a lot of that comes down to what do you have to show as far as Microsoft's first party stuff is concerned. And typically, it doesn't have a lot to show. But that's all changing because Microsoft obviously bought that clutch of studios for exclusive Xbox Series X development. And so now it's starting to have games where it can buoy stuff like this. And so this week it did, I would say, its first real Nintendo Direct type presentation. It was the longest ever Inside Xbox at 47 minutes. I mean, that's even tipping up against some of Nintendo's biggest directs. So it was a full-fledged show. And the important thing to keep in mind about this is that right around the same time that aired, Microsoft announced that it is basically going all digital until well into 2021, meaning that it is not going to attend conventions, although there's a caveat, and I'll mention that in a second. It is not going to attend conventions, and it is instead going to do this Nintendo Direct Inside Xbox pre-produced presentations. Now, Microsoft did say that it would look at conventions on a case-by-case basis. So my guess is if it were to appear that some convention is going to be huge and blow up, then maybe Microsoft would consider doing it. Matt, do you think that this is a sign of the times and Microsoft just getting with the times because everyone else is doing it now? Or do you think this is directly related to coronavirus and COVID-19?
Well, I think it's absolutely related to Corona. Like, they're trying to protect the employees. I think they're trying to kind of set expectations. And honestly, they're kind of ahead of the curve in that regard because that's going to be the new normal. It's like we're going to have to really question whether, stuff like E3 is going to happen next year. You're probably not going to go to a concert for another 18 months. It's
a sporting event.
The XFL is bankrupt. It's all coming apart, man.
It's all unraveling.
But it's, I think they're just sort of saying, don't expect,
they're setting expectations,
blowout stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to. It's also like we don't want to go to a convention, get all your filthy hands all over our controllers. Again, you want to talk about a pretty good way to spread something. Like, there you go.
There's no better way.
Doesn't matter. I mean, you already do it. The PAX, PAX Pox is a thing.
Yeah.
And this would be a disaster if that were to happen. So yeah, I think that is I think that's just Microsoft adopting to the new normal, and which makes somewhat sense because they were a Bill Gates founded company, and he's not there anymore, but he is part of that culture, and that's a concern of his. So yeah, I don't think it's because they don't have anything to show that's worth going to a convention for. Although maybe, I don't know.
I mean, finally, they may be in a place where that's not the case.
Yeah,
for the first time in like 7 years, they might actually have enough first-party stuff to buoy an E3 or a Gamescom.
Yeah. But if it works for Nintendo, maybe it'll work for them.
Yep. Hey, Mitch, we're getting comments in the chat that your mic is still low. So either you need to sit closer to the mic or bump up your audio a little bit. I know that was an issue last week. So let's start talking about some of the stuff that Microsoft actually showed in this digital Inside Xbox. The biggest game that it seemed like Microsoft really wanted to focus on for this was Grounded. Grounded is Obsidian's new survival action adventure, and it's basically a ripoff of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, except you don't play as the kid. Well, you kind of do. You play as like a tween. So it's basically
there were tweens in that movie.
Yeah, no, they're right. You're right. So it's basically little person, big world, and you're trying to survive. You're going out into the yard where you're fighting spiders that wouldn't be a big deal, except you're about an inch tall, and now all of a sudden they're the apex predator. So Microsoft did a big presentation on this. It showed a brand new trailer, a story trailer, because it wanted people to know that there is like a pretty hefty single player campaign in this. And it started sharing some of the details around the game. First of all, the game is coming out on July 28th for both PC and Xbox One. It will be day and date on Xbox Game Pass as well. So if you're a subscriber to that, you'll be able to get access to the game right away. the object of the game is to build a machine that will reverse the shrinking effect. So basically you're trying to build this contraption that will return you back to your normal size. And in the story trailer, they reveal that there's this shadow organization working in the backgrounds, monitoring your house in your backyard to make sure that their experiments are going according to plan. So there is kind of a scheming dark shadow organization underneath kind of the surface of the game that will, I'm guessing, will eventually drive the plot. Another objective is to build a base. So it does have most of the survival game tenets, like building a base and crafting new weapons and new gadgets.
It's the equivalent of like survive at first, then build the base, then build the rocket that gets you off the planet. I mean, That's essentially what that is.
It is. It's the same survival formula, or build the boat that gets you off the island or whatever. It's just basically a cut and paste from a lot of the survival games. But I would say the little person, big world aesthetic at least gives it a bit.
The hook is the setting.
Yeah. Are you excited about this, Matt? It is Obsidian.
No, I'm not. Because I don't really care about the idea, really. But I will probably play it because it's on Game Pass. So well played there, Microsoft. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't Obsidian, I would have less interest. Like Obsidian, definitely, because it's also interesting because Obsidian's never made anything like this before. So It makes me wonder, like, what do they have up their sleeve that made them want to do this? I do think it's funny that there's going to be an arachnophobia mode that removes the spiders, which is like, you think this is a motherfucking game? I mean, sure, if you're really that afraid of spiders, but it feels to me like that would be kind of part of the appeal.
For sure. I mean, to me, they're probably the scariest enemy, other than like a dog or a cat or something. Like that's probably the boss fights of dogs and cats. Yeah,
them are like scorpions.
Yeah,
who knows what's back there?
Yep.
That's cool. I mean, it looks nice. Like I like the look of it and the setting, and we'll just have to see how it launches because Obsidian and multiplayer. I don't know, but we'll see how it turns out. It's kind of the first real test to see how Obsidian being given access to sort of the resources of being owned by Microsoft turns out in terms of their launch day product, I guess.
Yep. And you're right. I mean, that's kind of the big litmus test I want to see here is now that one of these studios has come under Microsoft's wing, how much do their games improve with those resources, with those libraries, with thousands of people who are working on the same engine? Just having the resources to QA your games. I mean, that's been a big problem for Obsidian in the past, is a lot of times it ships games that are half broken or busted or has game-stopping bugs. To me, that should be the most immediate upgrade to Obsidian's games, is that they should come out a lot cleaner than they typically do, which to me, for as far as Obsidian is concerned, is huge. So I think this is probably going to be the first game. We've already seen a couple other smaller projects from like Ninja Theory, with Bleeding Edge. Like you could tell that game had been basically done before they were even purchased by Microsoft. So that was
Outer Worlds turned out pretty well, but I think that was mostly done before the transition.
Yeah. So I think Grounded will be the first kind of test to really see what that financial and intellectual muscle from Microsoft can impart upon a gaming project. So I'm pretty excited to see it.
Well, did they state that this project was done like after they made their last game? Like they started this project after
you can just look at the game
Microsoft?
And tell that it was done. I mean, you can't build a game like that in like 4 months. Like obviously this game has been in development for quite a while. Obsidian probably shopped it around to another publisher or two, maybe couldn't get anyone to sign on. And then Microsoft buys them and they're like, hey, we've had this kicking around here. We've been working on it for a while. And Microsoft's like, well, we'd like to see a return on our investment as quickly as possible. So let's get that going and let's polish it up and get it ready.
Why wouldn't you then compare it to be an exact comparison to something like Bleeding Edge? That game was...
I just explained that.
It sounded like you were saying that.
I literally used Bleeding Edge as the example.
Well, I know you said Bleeding Edge, but it sounded as if you weren't really comparing it as this is the same kind of test that Ninja Theory is going through right now.
No, I explained why, because that game was already done by the time Microsoft purchased them. Microsoft have an opportunity to make
on my end
better.
that you weren't saying that. You were just saying that, hey.
It's exactly what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my point. Is that Bleeding Edge is not an example that we can look to, and Grounded is, because Bleeding Edge was done by the time Microsoft purchased Ninja Theory.
Yeah, Bleeding Edge was just nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
Which,
and I think you see why now.
Yeah, I can't fault anyone's judgment on that one.
The crazy thing about
content is content.
The crazy thing about that game is no one's covering it. I think we have curated one review for Bleeding Edge. One. So all the major outlets have not been covering it.
Has it officially released?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's out. Yep. Yeah, it's been out for like a week now. And like, obviously there's some other big games that people are covering, but these big outlets, that doesn't stop them. They have plenty of people to cover everything. So I think it's just a choice. They probably looked at the traffic around the game and have decided that it's just not worth bumping it up in queue, and they're doing other stuff. So next up, Gears Tactics. It's gold. It is 100% ready for launch. It is coming April 28th. We got the launch trailer yesterday, 2 weeks before launch, which is weird. But that game, they focused on that a good bit too. And that game is looking really, really good, man. Like,
yeah. It's like, I know it's a dumb reference, but I keep like, every time I see stuff from Gears Tactics, I keep thinking about John Hammond and Jurassic Park with the spared no expense line. It's just like they really went all out on this thing that you would have thought would have been kind of a one-off, hey, we'll just throw this thing out here because we thought of it sort of idea. But they are AAA and the shit out of this thing.
Oh man, I mean, it looks like a legit Gears game. I mean, it really
looks like you could like jump in third person and just play it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the production values are that good. The cinematics are incredible. If a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there who've heard about XCOM, people like us talking about how much we love it and how great it is, who maybe have still kind of recoiled from it. Maybe they looked at the aesthetics around that franchise and weren't fans of it. This is like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with like this brand new ingredient jammed in the middle. So if you've been looking for kind of that gateway game, a Trojan horse to get you into turn-based strategy games.
Somebody just added Nutella.
Yeah, I mean, here you go. This is the game that is going to do it. And you know what? After you play Gears Tactics, you'll probably go back and buy all the XCOM games, which now are like $1 a piece or whatever. You can get them so cheap.
Yeah, I think XCOM 2 was on crazy sale this past week or something.
It was actually just this week. It was on a steep discount. So I'm really excited for Gears Tactics because of the game itself, because I think it's going to be really good and I enjoy the genre. But I also think that it could be a huge evangelist for that genre in general and get people to try other entries in that genre. Like, so it could be an important game more than people realize in the industry in general. At least I think.
And if you are not super into the Gears idea, but you do want to play a game like that and you haven't played Silent Storm, get yourself on GOG and pick up Silent Storm because that one's a lot of fun.
There's tons of games like this. John Wick Hex is a recent one that came out, and it even has its kind of own spin on the formula. But these are all games that after you try it in Gears Tactics, you can go back and get for cheaper if you want to keep playing other games that are similar. Next up, Journey to the Savage.
The only thing I'll say quick about Gears would be, we talked about Halo struggling to pivot, to go to more towards a story-based single-player experience because the multiplayer they weren't very successful in. Well, here's a game where the pivot can work.
Wait a minute. Wait. Did you just say Halo's multiplayer isn't successful?
No, when we had the conversation that, Halo tried to pivot to more single-player experience because it was getting beat out by COD in multiplayer, that they couldn't make that pivot, and that hindered its transition and took people out of the franchise. Well, here's a game in Gears Tactics that I think can pivot and is a smart way to pivot. Well, they're pivoting an entire genre, though. And I think it works. I think for this
but I don't really. That's not a pivot for. That's not a pivot for the Gears franchise.
I would consider a pivot for the franchise, and not.
It's isn't going to be what Gears is moving forward. This is like Halo Wars.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The apt comparison is Halo Wars. I mean, that's where they tried to pivot Halo.
Yeah, but I think.
Otherwise, you're just tweaking stuff.
But I think Gears definitely is way better of a strategical game than Halo would be.
Halo Wars was an RTS. It wasn't a turn-based strategy game. They're different genres.
Even so, I mean, I know they're not the same.
Let's move on.
Yeah, but we can move on.
Next up, Journey to the Savage Planet has DLC coming called Hot Garbage. It might be the best name for DLC ever. Have you gone back and played this game at all, Matt, since we talked about it on the show?
Yeah, I played a bit of it. I didn't finish it, but I got about halfway through it. I liked it.
I burned out on it. I didn't finish it either. I maybe got halfway.
Yeah, I like I like explore alien planet stuff, and it was fun. But there's some of these crafting games just like hit a point where I'm like, all right, I get it. Like I don't need to hunt around for 14 more foozles in the hopes that I can build the what's-her-magigig thing. I'm hitting that point with Animal Crossing too, but
I hit it fast.
Well, you don't want to know how many hours I have in Animal Crossing right now.
I do want to know. What are you talking about?
95.
Oh my God, man. For someone who says they hate Animal Crossing.
I just had no use for it until I was trapped in my house for 4 weeks.
There's the irony. I've played every Animal Crossing for too many hours. I think I've literally played this one for like 6 hours. I just have no interest. I don't care. I don't care about growing new trees anymore. I don't care about getting a new texture for the floor of my house. I don't
really either, but I have nothing else to care about. So. I am growing giant gardens of flowers, trying to get black roses right now. That's what I'm doing. That's my life.
Fair enough. So the new DLC for Journey to the Savage Planet, like I said, is called Hot Garbage. It actually comes out tomorrow. It's a big chunk of
well
DLC.
done on Microsoft, like having all this stuff like right on deck, whereas like Sony's just like, yeah, we don't know when we're giving you these games. Like, just wait. Yeah.
Yep. And so the DLC launches tomorrow. It has an entirely new planet. And if you remember, that was like one of the big things about the base game is, at least for me. That was
definitely my complaint. Was like one of my problems was I knew I was never getting off that planet.
Yep. And it's a beach style planet with like beaches and an ocean and shores.
You got my attention.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see that part. I saw the gear stuff. I saw the grounded stuff. I did not see this part.
Yep. So that's a pretty big deal. Again, coming out tomorrow. Now we'll start to get some of the smaller stuff. The Last Campfire from Hello Games, Matt. They finally showed gameplay for that.
There's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah, well, because they've been so busy trying to get their other game into shape, and now they're pretty much done with that. This game was actually
they just threw another mech into the damn thing last week out of nowhere. Like Hello Games is a bunch of madmen and women.
They are. This game was actually announced back in 2018, I believe, at the Game Awards. I think it was.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And we hadn't really seen anything for quite a long time. They had put out 2 short trailers that just were kind of like looks at the aesthetics of the game. And then in this event, they released the first gameplay of it.
And it's it's supposed to be more like a Pixar short kind of idea, right? It's not like a full-fledged game. It's more like, hey, we're going to let our people sort of like go off on a tangent here and see what we get. Sort of thing. It appears
to be tracking towards like a Flower type game, more of an experience than something with objectives and deaths and things like that, which I think they would be great at making. So I'm pretty excited for that. No release date yet, but it does appear to be coming to pretty much every platform. So it was a little weird that it was featured here on Inside Xbox, but I guess they're just trying to get the word out there that it's also coming to Xbox One. Next up, Forza Street. They announced a release date for that. That's coming out May 5th. Forza Street is not a console game. It is a mobile take on Forza, which is weird because a lot of racing franchises, when they do like an arcade style spin-off, they'll call it whatever Street. Remember, EA had its big label where all its arcade takes on its sports games were called NFL Street, NBA Street. So typically that denotes this is more of a casual arcade style take, but that's what Forza Horizon is already. So it is coming out on mobile. It looks really hot. I mean, I'm not in the studio, but I'm assuming you guys are watching the trailer for it right now. It looks legit. Like it looks like a Forza Horizon game. There's a bunch of betas going on over the next couple of weeks. If you want to go on SIFTD and go to that game page and then click on early access, you can get some information about that. But then it launches in full on May 5th. Matt,
it's already on PC, I think.
Is it?
I think so.
It's in like early access stuff right now, but not an official launch yet.
Yeah, but you can play it one way or the other.
Yeah, so you can actually give it a go before its official launch on the 5th of May. You going to give that a go, Matt? I know we both love this franchise, but is it enough for us to try a mobile racing game?
I don't know. I mean, I've hit the point where I'm kind of okay just waiting for Horizon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't even know if I'd bother with like the straight motorsport entry that is inevitably going to launch with the new system. Like I just don't know if I need to do that anymore.
Some genres work great in mobile. To me, driving games, not one of them. I've never played a racing game.
I don't think that translates. No.
It just doesn't. Yeah, I need a stick or a D-pad to play those games on screen controls for racing games. I've never played one that I felt controlled as well as using a stick. Now, I'm sure there maybe is a game out there that controls that well. It'd be great if somebody left that in the comments so I could check it out. I've just tried a ton of mobile racing games, and they've all played like crap to me. So not that excited for it, but I know it's a pretty big franchise, so I wanted to get it on people's radar. And then the final announcement was very minor. Microsoft just said that it has made some tweaks to Game Bar, which is the game streaming overlay in Windows. I'm guessing nobody uses that because there's so many other ways to stream on a PC. Obviously, you can use Twitch or Mixer even. So I don't know how much functionality most people are going to get out of that. You can use Shadow Play, NVIDIA to stream. So I won't use it, but it's good to know that Microsoft is updating its kind of lesser known products kind of behind the scenes. So Matt, what do you think about the event in general? Are you impressed with what was shown and announced? Do you think it was good enough to have an event like this?
I mean, it's what they had. Obviously, there's nothing that's burning the house down or anything, but like it's fine. It's as solid as maybe I would say Sony's first attempt last year. And I'm sure there will be more stuff to show as the newly bought developers kind of spool up and get their stuff done. I like that so much of it is like, oh, it's out this month or next month or very soon. You know, like there's nothing shown past midsummer really. So I like the immediacy of it. That's also one of the things that Nintendo uses to its advantage is they usually show stuff that's pretty soon, maybe a couple teases of like later in the year, but like in general, the Nintendo Directs focus on the immediate future, which I think is a positive way to go about it. So it's a good start.
Yeah, I think it's auspicious, meaning it's a good sign of things to come. Like when I first heard the all digital stuff coming from Microsoft, I was kind of pissed off. I was like, wow, one of the last big boys who was going to every convention is gone. Then I watched Inside Xbox and I was like, okay, I'll be okay. I think as long as they keep doing these and they're of this quality and of this breadth and of this length, I think I'll be okay with them kind of going the direct route. It was well produced, you know, as far as like how it was cut together. There were a lot of people sheltering in place. It's just really bizarre to see all content with webcams now.
There's also a fair number of XG4 people working on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So
that's why it was well produced. It was our people.
You're absolutely right. That's exactly why.
Well, and
so
also
there you go.
Can say that you know, this one relates very much to like Sony's first State of Play. You know, I could say it's the same type of quality, which, you know, they'll get better as they do more of them. I know they've done a bunch of Inside Xboxes, but they never had to solely focus on a full digital initiative to release information. And I would say they probably need to work on marketing it a little bit more because
I didn't actually know it happened.
Sony owns it on Twitter. Like they own.
Well, they did market the hell out of it. They put out like trailers just for that.
I understand.
Sony doesn't do that.
But I would say I didn't even know this Inside Xbox happened, and I always know there's a State of Play because it's always on social media, and I
think that's just your interests, honestly.
No, I mean I follow Xbox, and I barely see it if they do an Inside Xbox.
That's probably because you're not liking as many tweets from Xbox, so it's not always coming up in your feed. You're liking more PlayStation posts, so it has precedent and it's popping up in your feed more because of the algorithm. They promoted the hell out of this. Literally, they put out a trailer for it. Have you ever seen a trailer for anything Sony's done like that, or a trailer for a Nintendo Direct?
I've seen a trailer for Sony.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Have you?
They've done some trailers for like Cummings. I mean, it's just like a logo and a date, but yeah. I did not know this was happening until after it happened. I saw it on SIFTD. I saw people posting. I saw people I know who had done segments in it post like, "Hey, my thing happened," and I was like, "Oh, I guess that happened." So I saw that's. I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw pieces of it as people posted the individual stuff.
Accidentally, though, Mitch did bring up a good point, though, and that is for the last 6 or 7 years, most people have been liking and commenting on PlayStation content. And so that does put you behind the 8 ball on social media going forward because those algorithms are not going to pop your stuff up into people's feeds like it does for PlayStation or like it does.
And I'll be honest, I can't be sure that I didn't see it pop up in my feed and just ignore it because I'm so used to Microsoft stuff being
banal.
Nothing.
That could be it as well. I mean, even on SIFTD, I follow. I mean, I changed as I've been doing more of this kind of content. I've been changing it so I get everybody's information, and I'm kind of pushing everything up.
So you adjusted your SIFT ratings basically so you could get more.
Exactly. So like if Microsoft does bring out news, I do see it, and it's always going to be there in the forefront. I barely saw it, if not saw it at all until after it happened. And you know, that shows, in my mind, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I think social media is driven by your behaviors typically. And because everyone's been conditioned to interact with PlayStation for the last 6 or 7 years, everyone's feeds are going to be driven by it until Microsoft's going to have big stuff consistently to change that. It can't even just be like one thing where all of a sudden, here's the first gameplay of Halo Infinite and it blows up on their Twitter feed. You're going to need like 10 or 20 more of those to get back to where PlayStation is as far as in people's algorithms and stuff like that. So it's definitely an uphill battle to fight, not an impossible battle to win, but it's tough. And it is one of those things that's only unique to today. Back in the N64, PlayStation 2 eras, you have to worry about stuff like this. Like, how do we pop in people's social feeds? Like, it's crazy how things have changed now. But if anyone can figure out how to turn that around, I'm guessing it's Microsoft. I have a feeling they might have some programmers there who might be able to tell them best practices to get them bumped up. So, all right, let's move on.
Hopefully not the guys who designed the Xbox One OS.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you saw this week that Xbox Series X is not going to have a new dashboard. I think we even mentioned that last week, actually. It's going to use the Xbox One dashboard. At least at launch. I'm hoping that they're building a new one behind the scenes and that this is just going to be a placeholder until they get it done.
I hope it at least runs faster.
I mean, that's the hope, right? Is that even as it is, if you put it on that hardware, it should be snappy. And if it's not, then, oh my God, your programming is trash. That's all I got to say.